Have you ever felt it? That invisible thorn in your soul? That chilling certainty that something has changed even when they smile, hug you, and say everything is fine? You sense the love is gone, but you can't name the deafening silence that has replaced it. You become a detective of your own heartbreak, searching for clues in their empty gestures. But this is not just a feeling, it's a message. Love doesn't just vanish, it retreats in subtle, painful steps. And according to the master, psychologist Carl Jung, what the mouth refuses to say, the unconscious screams through undeniable actions. Before love is completely lost, a person will always make two specific, almost imperceptible moves first. These aren't arguments or fights. They are silent acts of psychic distance, and understanding them will give you the power to see the truth before it shatters you. This is the kind of deep, transformative knowledge we explore here. An incredible number of you who find solace in these truths are watching without being subscribed. If you are ready to stop guessing and start understanding, do 3 things for us right now. Hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell so you never miss a video that could give you this kind of clarity. And comment the single word, truth, below to affirm your journey with us. Now let's unveil the 2 signs you cannot afford to ignore. Carl Jung left us an essential teaching. What is not made conscious manifests as fate. And many people suffer abandonment in slow motion because they don't know how to read the unconscious signals. Because their rational mind repeats, everything is fine, but their body knows something is breaking. This video isn't to victimize you. It's to give you tools. It's to return the power you lost while waiting for explanations that never came. It's to teach you to look without fear at what you already intuited, but that no one dared to tell you in clear words. Let's dive together into the invisible movements that precede an emotional loss. Let's decipher the first 2 things someone does when they begin to stop loving you. And we won't do it from drama, but from depth psychology. From the voice of Jung, who knew that the soul doesn't lie, even when the ego strives to disguise. If you've ever felt you were with someone who no longer loved you, but hadn't yet left, this video is for you, because there is something more painful than a breakup. The moment when the other has already left, internally, but is still sitting beside you. You don't need more proof. You need understanding, and that is what we will offer you today. Deep, brave, revealing understanding. Because once you understand what's really happening, you can begin to heal, not because the other changes, but because you stop waiting for what can no longer return. Love that leaves doesn't always take the blame. Sometimes it leaves because it can no longer sustain a relationship built on obligation or fear. And that is also part of the human process. Jung would say that when something dies externally, it's because an internal part is asking to evolve. This content doesn't seek to awaken resentment. It seeks to awaken clarity, because it's from clarity that true emotional dignity is born. And only with dignity can you rebuild yourself without seeking culprits, without dragging yourself for answers, without staying frozen waiting for signals that never arrive. Let's walk through this pain head on. We won't sugarcoat it. We will look it in the eyes, because only what is looked at with consciousness can stop hurting from the shadow. Let's name the signals. Let's explore the behaviors. Let's translate what the unconscious is whispering. Carl Jung showed us that love is not only an emotional experience, it is a manifestation of the soul in connection. When that connection is cut, the soul knows. And even if the mind tries to deny it, the body begins to give signals. You've already felt them, and today, you will learn to decipher them. Perhaps what hurts the most isn't that the other leaves, but that they do it in silence, that they stop looking at you the way they used to, that they speak differently, that they touch you as if they no longer felt, that they become a stranger who carries your name on their lips, but no longer in their heart. But you are not here to stay in that pain. You are here because a part of you is already ready to awaken, to let go of waiting, to stop begging for affection from someone who no longer has love to give you, and to understand from Jung that loss is also a rebirth if you know how to use it as a mirror. We are going to talk about the first 2 signals, but we are also going to talk about you, about your worth, about what you deserve, about how to rebuild your self-esteem after having felt you were no longer sufficient because you did not stop being valuable. The other simply stopped vibrating at your same frequency, and that is not your fault. In this video, you will discover that when someone loses love for you, their behavior doesn't destroy you if you know who you are. Because when you are centered in your own axis, you no longer need another to confirm what you already know about yourself, that you are worthy of love, truth, and respect. We are going to touch wounds. We are going open questions, but not to make you more fragile, but to make you more conscious. Because the strong soul isn't the one that doesn't suffer, but the one that knows how to look at pain without anesthesia and still keep walking with its heart held high. The first signal may hurt, the second may break you, but if you stay until the end, you will understand that the love that leaves doesn't take your essence with it. It only takes its part, and your part remains intact, ready to transform into something deeper, more real, more free. Carl Jung said that the soul has its own cycle, that everything that separates outside was already separating inside. And today, with his teachings as a beacon, we will light a light where before there was only confusion. If you have felt that something changed in that person and no one gave you answers, today you will understand why. If you have felt love slipping through your fingers for no apparent reason, today you will understand the symbol behind that emptiness. And if you are about to let go but don't know how, this video will be the push you needed. You are not alone. You are not broken. You are not exaggerating. You are feeling with depth something that many choose to ignore, but you don't. You are here. You are awake. You are on the path. And that, although it may not seem like it now, will return to you a version of yourself that will never again beg for love. Stay until the end, because today you won't just understand how the end of love begins in another person. Today you will begin the beginning of self-love in you. When someone begins to lose love for you, you won't know it by what they say, but by what they stop saying. Emotional silence is one of the first signals, and Jung explained it masterfully. When the soul stops being connected to something, language becomes hollow, automatic, soulless, and that is the first thing a person does when love is fading. They disconnect emotionally in conversation. Before, they asked how you felt. Now they only answer with monosyllables. Before, their eyes lingered on you when you spoke. Now they listen to you like someone hearing unimportant news. It's not that they are angry. It's not that they don't have time. It's that their soul is no longer there. And that emotional distance, even if not said aloud, shouts from every long pause, every empty every look that no longer seeks you. This first signal isn't always obvious because we are trained to justify it. We think they are stressed, tired, have a lot on their mind, and yes, those things may be true. But when love is still alive, the connection is sustained, even in the midst of chaos. When love dies, the bond stops being a priority. Carl Jung said that the unconscious always seeks to manifest itself, and when a person no longer loves you, their unconscious begins to release gestures that betray that disconnection. There is no longer enthusiasm upon seeing you, no openness to touching you, no playfulness or tenderness, nor that lively curiosity that characterizes a committed heart. And here I want to invite you to a brief exercise. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and remember how that person was when you still felt they loved you. Remember their voice, their words, their energy. Now think about how they are today. Do you notice a change, a difference in tone, depth, presence? If so, you are not imagining things. You are registering the soul's withdrawal. The first thing someone does when they begin to stop loving you is not to shout it, fight about it, or admit it. It is to extinguish the emotional fire of conversations. They answer you, but they don't share with you. They hear you, but they don't listen to you. They stay, but they are not truly staying. They are like someone fulfilling a contract, not someone inhabiting a bond. And this doesn't mean that person is cruel. It means they can no longer pretend completely. Because the soul, as Jung taught, has an ethics deeper than the ego. It cannot sustain what no longer vibrates. That's why the body moves away even if the mind says everything is fine. The energy changes even if the gestures don't. Sometimes what hurts the most isn't what someone does, but what they stop doing. And in this case, the first signal is precisely that. They stop inhabiting you emotionally. They stop finding you. They stop entering your world. And you feel it even if you don't know how to explain it. You feel it when they no longer look at you as before. You feel it when there is no longer depth. You feel it when everything becomes transactional, mechanical, superficial. Jung asserted that the collective unconscious manifests in archetypes, and one of the most painful archetypes is that of the absent present, someone who is physically with you, but whose essence has departed. That archetype generates confusion because it looks like love, but it isn't. It is empty presence, soulless routine, and that, if you don't understand it, can make you believe you did something wrong. That is why the first thing someone does when they lose love for you is disconnect emotionally. Not with hatred, not with drama, but with a kind of emptiness that grows like an invisible crack. And your task, if you want to heal, is not to deny it, but to observe it with dignity. Because seeing the absence clearly is the first step to recovering your presence. The second thing someone does when they begin to lose love for you is even more disconcerting than the first, because it's not about something they stop doing, but something they start doing without logical explanation. They begin to create emotional distance through criticism, subtle judgment, or disinterest in your emotions. Jung said that everything we repress, we project, and when love fades, the mind needs to justify that internal loss. How? By devaluing, criticizing, disconnecting from the empathy that once flowed effortlessly. Not because they truly see you as less, but because they need to believe you have changed so they can leave without feeling guilty. That is the most devastating unconscious mechanism. The person begins to project onto you their own voids, their own contradictions. They begin to see you as a reflection of what they no longer wish to sustain, and without realizing it, they construct a narrative where you are the problem. You are different. You no longer fulfill them. Suddenly, anything they used to like about you now bothers them. Your way of speaking, your laugh, your spontaneity, your sensitivity. Everything begins to pass through a filter of judgment that didn't exist before. It's not hatred. It's projected disconnection. And yes, it hurts deeply because you feel you are being devalued without reason. The criticism that appears in that stage isn't open, but disguised. A sarcastic comment, an unnecessary comparison, a question loaded with judgment, a lack of enthusiasm for your achievements. And you feel it like a constant slight stab that makes you doubt yourself more and more. This is where the most damage is done to self-esteem, because at first you don't understand what is happening. And since there is no clear explanation, you begin to blame yourself, to believe you are doing something wrong, to modify yourself, adapt yourself, reduce yourself, hoping to recover the love that has already begun to leave. But you cannot recover something that has already been deactivated in the other's unconscious. Jung was clear on this. When a relationship becomes unilateral, when only one sustains the bond, the other's soul has already begun the journey towards its individuation away from you, and resisting that only prolongs the suffering. Do a second exercise. Think about the last few times that person made you feel bad without a clear reason. What did they say? How did you react? How did that moment end? If you notice that criticism has increased and your emotions no longer matter to them, that is the second signal. You are not imagining it. You are witnessing the unconscious process of their disengagement. Don't demonize the person who does this. Often, they do it unknowingly because they didn't learn to leave with honesty, because they don't know how to close with clarity. Because, as Jung said, inner conflict always seeks an escape valve outward. And if you are close, you become that valve. But you are not here to be anyone's projection screen. You are here to remember who you are, to understand that when someone criticizes you constantly, when they stop being excited about you, when they distance themselves emotionally and justify their departure with your flaws, what they are doing is confessing to you, without words, that they can no longer love you as before. The cruelest thing about this stage isn't the criticism, it's the contrast, because you remember perfectly how that person was before, who admired you, celebrated you, embraced you with words. And now, every gesture seems more like an audit than a show of affection. That is deeply disorienting, and if you don't understand it from depth psychology, it can destroy you. Carl Jung spoke about the stages of psychic disengagement in affective bonds. According to his vision, the soul needs to find a reason to separate without guilt. And many times that reason isn't real. It is fabricated, constructed, not to harm, but to internally survive the idea of stopping loving someone who hasn't done you wrong. That is where devaluation, judgment, emotional coldness are born. Because the more they project onto you what they cannot assume about themselves, the easier it is for them to let go without feeling like a bad person. This is an unconscious defense, not premeditated, but that doesn't make it less painful. And here comes another fundamental point. You can do nothing to stop this process if it has already begun. You cannot be sweeter, more interesting, more patient, more understanding to recover the love the other has already let go of internally. Because true love doesn't return under pressure. It only returns when there is consciousness. The most common mistake at this point is trying to win back that lost love, becoming someone else, yielding, pretending, forcing conversations. But that only wears you down more, because each desperate attempt only confirms your emptiness. And Jung said that nothing awakens more darkness in the soul than denying one's own abandonment. Jung believed that suffering, when faced with lucidity, becomes a symbol. And if you manage to see this loss not as a condemnation, but as a transition of consciousness, something new will be born in you, something more dignified, something that no longer begs, no longer drags itself, no longer needs the other to confirm its worth. Emotional disconnection and subtle criticism are not malice. They are unconscious language. They are the soul saying, I can no longer be here. And you who are watching this video know it because you have felt it. And now, finally, you can name it with truth. Accepting that someone no longer loves you is not resignation. It is consciousness. And as Jung said, consciousness heals what denial prolongs. That is why this video doesn't seek to make you suffer more, but for you to finally understand what is happening so you stop searching where there is nothing left and begin to find yourself where you always were, in yourself. Emotional disconnection, that first silent signal, robs you little by little of your voice. You begin to speak less, share less, expect less. Without realizing it, you begin to silence parts of yourself to not cause discomfort. That self-censorship is lethal for your self-esteem, because when you abandon yourself so the other will stay, you have already begun to disappear. And when the second signal appears, criticism, judgment, emotional coldness, you become the enemy in a story you didn't write. Suddenly, everything you do seems wrong, and you ask yourself, what did I do? But the correct question isn't that. It is, why do I stay where I am, no longer emotionally welcome? Jung explained it like this. When love ends, if there is no consciousness, the psyche defends itself by creating conflict, not to hurt, but to justify the escape. And you, if you don't understand it, can believe you are the problem. But the problem isn't you. The problem is that you keep loving where the other's soul is no longer. There is no redemption in staying where there is no reciprocity. There is no evolution in begging for presence. There is no self-love in justifying another's coldness. If you choose this journey, you won't be the same person at the end. If you like this video, hit like before your aura turns off the button on its own, just to test your intuition. And subscribe, or know your aura might feel guilty for missing this chance. The videos on your screen might explain why people vanish from your life, or reveal what your shadow says about your relationships. You'll only discover this by clicking. See you next time, or sooner, in the invisible field between awakening souls.